Harry Potter, the legendary movie that more or less you and I have heard of. Millions worldwide are captivated by the magical world of wizards and sorcery. But behind the mystical scenes of Hogwarts and the battles of good against evil, a big question lingers. Does the magical power of witches truly exist?
Let your mind flutter with the incantation with Wingardium Leviosa just a bit. So today, our journey will delve into mysteries.
Mysteries that have existed for thousands of years across different cultures. Who or what is a witch? Where do their powers come from? Are the wonders created by witches just illusions? Or are they vivid images born from fear, hope, and the inexplicable in the ancient world? Together, we'll uncover the line between magic and science, between belief and skepticism in the video, The Mystery of Witches, Magical Powers. Magic or illusion? Before we embark on the journey, answer this. How can you distinguish between a witch and a regular person? Ugly face, long nose, wearing black robes, pointed hat, flying on a broom. Yes, that's the image of witches we know from fairy tales. Yet to describe those who can perform magic, every civilization has its own take. In the world's oldest civilizations, ancient Egypt can be considered a hub of mysterious culture. Around 3000 before Common Era, witches appeared there. With their magic, they earned the respect of the people and were consulted by kings and leaders when issues arose. Thanks to that, witches received many royal favors and high-ranking noble titles. The pinnacle was the high priest, capable of reading ancient mystical texts.
Next was the one tasked with protecting and guiding souls of the deceased on their journey to the afterlife. There was also someone specializing in healing and chasing away various plagues. And the most special role in this system was for the person tasked with driving out crawling insects from residential areas. The sorcerers would collaborate to perform magic while also helping the pharaoh protect the country. During this era, the magicians also owned magic staffs and powerful talismans. These were important tools used to summon and control mysterious creatures. When performing rituals, the witches would use their magic staffs to draw protective circles around people.
Additionally, powerful talismans were considered indispensable items for Egyptian priests. However, it was also a tool for punishment, harming their enemies. Ramesses VIII was the second pharaoh of the 20th dynasty of Egypt. He was a powerful king with many achievements in defending the nation. Despite his talents, some people were still dissatisfied with Ramesses, particularly his wife, Queen Tai. Wanting her son to become the next pharaoh, she planned a conspiracy with the help of sorcerers. They used a scroll of curses to kill the royal household and close confidants. The ladies-in-waiting took strands of Ramesses' hair, placed them on effigies to strengthen the curse. The assassination was successful. The pharaoh was mortally wounded and died from a deep cut to the neck. However, magic did not help the queen and her accomplices escape punishment. The plot was quickly uncovered. Everyone involved was executed or forced to commit suicide. As you can see, the witch has played a significant role in this calm event, and we can also see their extraordinary strength. Let's move away from ancient Egypt and head to ancient Rome. During the time when Christianity established its political position, the witches didn't have as much influence as they did in Egypt. However, in some remote ethnic regions, witches and magic were still very popular. For example, the cart people. Around the early 10th century BC, the cart appeared in Europe. By the 5th century BC, they spread everywhere here.
They lived and were instructed by the Roman Empire of the period, called the Mandates. Why was that? Because the cart people were knowledgeable about the mysterious rituals, not unlike the magic of the witches. Their rituals were conducted in great secrecy, usually taking place on quiet, moonless nights. The place for the ritual, called the sacred ground, was located deep within the forest or a deserted land. The person in charge of the ceremony was called the druid, wielding a golden sickle, cutting a few branches off the tree's body.
They had knowledge, teaching valuable lessons to the youth. They didn't rely on writing, but learned by listening, memorizing, and then passing it down orally to their descendants. When seriously ill, or when going into the dangerous battlefield for survival, the ritual leader would perform sacrifices, even requiring a life to save another. They knew the name Chi, used black fruits, guessing to predict good and bad omens.
During festival days, the Green Order priests presided over the ceremonies, inducing sleep among attendees, then summoning their souls to teach, interpreting dreams to predict the future.
Some magic of the witches could restrain and threaten the lives of others, with only a few types of herbs and powerful charms. And it is here that the image of witches for Europeans became more sinister. They believed that those who could perform these spells had dealings with evil spirits, offering themselves to malevolent forces to gain dark power. Thus, the doctrine of the Church considered witchcraft as a pagan demon worship. This led to the stereotypical image of an ugly woman, a hideous creature dressed in long flowing black robes, wearing a pointed hat, laughing while riding a broomstick, emerging.
These bad rumors, combined with their distinct appearance, made witches targets of persecution across Europe during the Middle Ages. This discrimination sparked a ferocious wave of witch hunts. What happened to witches in Europe back then?
From about 1450 to 1750, people believed witches were the cause of social upheavals, particularly in the West, which had just experienced the Black Death. People believed those who knew magic were using their powers for harm. Moreover, both Catholic and Protestant communities viewed witches as devil worshippers who needed to be eliminated. For unclear and implausible reasons, a tragedy unfolded, becoming one of Europe's darkest events.
Witches became convenient scapegoats for many popes, especially during the 15th century reign of Pope Innocent VIII.
The Inquisition mainly targeted women, partly as churches believed that temptations originated with Eve and had tainted the Edenic garden. Officials gathered citizens to accuse and blame witches for trivial incidents, like disputes and minor unrest. Subsequently, victims were tortured into confessing. Once a torturer manipulated their will, authorities forced them to name others, leading to all the accused being hanged or burnt alive. Back then, some high-ranking individuals in English society practiced witchcraft, even a woman considered a lawyer. Anne Boleyn, the wife of King Henry VIII, broke with Catholicism in 1533. It was whispered that she couldn't produce a male heir for the king. Anne's stance displeased the entire nation. She was accused of adultery and treason. There were even rumors she was a witch with 11 fingers. Facing harsh backlash and accusations, Anne was executed at the Tower of London. Her husband Henry crafted witchcraft laws and banned dark magic across England. It's strange. During the excavation in the 19th century, they didn't find a single finger of her skeleton. Anne's death didn't stop the witch hunts in Europe. In Scotland, witchcraft became a crime
punishable by death. At that time, when King James's bride-to-be, Princess of Denmark, sailed to Scotland to marry him, a storm took her life. In grief, the king became obsessed with witchcraft and started one of the most brutal witch hunts in Europe. He blamed the witches for causing the disaster and arrested many people in the Boar Quinch area. Agnes Sampson was one of the unfortunate victims during James's reign. They put a sharp wire bridle in her mouth and forced her to confess to plotting to assassinate the future queen. Not just Agnes, over 70 others were executed in this event. Some had to apologize publicly, but some were imprisoned and faced brutal torture. Most notably, 19 people were hanged and another was flogged to death. The Massachusetts court later pardoned the accused women, but that didn't ease the grievances of the harmed families. The bitterness and resentment lasted for centuries, all because of an obsession with cleansing witches. Ancient civilizations across the globe have different records of witches and their magic. So, what does the Eastern perspective consider a witch? Let's rewind history to ancient China. Chinese culture is diverse and vibrant, covering a vast land with over 1 billion people. However, over thousands of years, many cultural aspects, especially among ethnic minorities, have been preserved and continue to thrive today. This includes witchcraft and magic arts. Historically, witchcraft was one of the oldest professions in China. Records show that professional witches appeared during the Bo-Lak period. Witches often took on important roles in Bo-Lak. They had knowledge and could predict future events, good or bad. Ancient China also had many stories and legends about magical masters. One of them was Hian Vian, Emperor Tui To of this nation. Around 4,000 years ago, at the Yellow River and Yangtze River, many tribes such as the Bo-Lak and Thi Tok lived together. Among them were 3 strong tribes, with the Hian Vian tribe in the northwest. The Vimde tribe was in the Kung Tui region, and the powerful Q Lei tribe belonged to Su Viu. According to legend, Su Viu had 81 brothers, all of whom were tough, with heads made of bronze and iron. They ate rocks and were extremely fierce. They used many different kinds of weapons, such as swords and bows. With their superior strength, Su Viu aimed to conquer the 3 great tribes and become the emperor. Feeling unable to resist, the Hian Vian and Vian Jie tribes joined forces and fought a great battle against Su Viu at Chak Lok. In preparation for the battle, the Hian Vian trained and raised 5 mythical beasts: bears, tigers, golden bears, wolves, and foxes. Su Viu's army, although vast, could not defeat the beasts of Hian Vian, and thus fled in retreat. At that time, sensing an opportunity, the Hian Vian warriors continued to pursue and surround them. However, something unexpected happened. Suddenly, the sky darkened, clouds gathered, the wind rose, and lightning struck fiercely. It turned out that Si Vu used magic to summon a storm, creating such a critical situation. But ultimately, Hian Vian became the victorious emperor of all Central Plains. Later, he learned celestial techniques from the god Kwang Than Tu and sailed a boat up into the sky. This story seems mythical, yet it shows that the concept of witchcraft and sorcery has existed for thousands of years. Sorcery held a divine position in people's minds. Magicians were highly respected in society. Therefore, in ancient society, they would act on behalf of national rituals, cast spells for prayer, and heal the sick. Similar to the priests of Egypt, Chinese sorcerers also received much respect. However, do sorcery and their powers truly exist? Why do they possess such extraordinary abilities? Through magic and sorcery, witches have become people who can do extraordinary things. Even though the witch hunt has ended, somewhere in the world there are still sorcerers.
Even during World War II, there was a hunt for them. A nation employed witches as a battle army. The country I'm referring to here is Nazi Germany. This man is Heinrich Himmler, the leader of the Nazi SS, who established a special military unit. Members of this group possessed extraordinary powers, much like the superheroes we often watch, as they were all witches. Even at the age of 10, Himmler started being fascinated by dark arts, beginning with books about witches, monks, and medieval alchemists. Though a devout Catholic, he was particularly drawn to Satan worship, a legend as the king of demons. Once he became the head of EDES, Himmler established another special unit called Deutsche Waffenhart. With the mission to research and learn about magic, witches would become the most potent weaponized army to ensure Nazi victory in every battlefield. The symbol of Deutsche Waffenhart is a bear-shaped cookie, referencing the Salem witches in America, who used bear blood to cause outbreaks of smallpox among rebellious black slaves in the late 16th century. By September of 1934, this army was officially activated with nearly 300 members. They disguised themselves as students and researchers, visiting libraries both domestically and abroad to gather and document all information about witches. Thanks to this opportunity, the Nazi witches accessed rare resources, including manuscripts dating back 900 years before Christ. After a year, all gathered information on witches was compiled and reported to Himmler. It was mainly about creating spells. The Führer was very interested in methods to defeat enemies without much effort, like lighting a fire with distant elements, then inhaling smoke to send illusions everywhere, piercing an enemy's heart with a stake so they turn back and eliminate their comrades. This source greatly impacted Himmler, making him more confident and proud of this special unit. In 1939, Germany decided to invade Poland as per Hitler's plan. The Waffenhart leader was also thrown into battle, and everything unfolded just as history has recounted to us. It wasn't just Poland, Finland, Romania, and the Baltic countries were all defeated by the overwhelming force and storm-like attack of the German army. People believed the witches played a critical role in these successive victories. Furthermore, Himmler confidently pledged to capture France in only 8 weeks, because his special forces had crushed the enemy's morale. Surprisingly, France surrendered in just 6 weeks to the overwhelming power of Germany. After that, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg also fell one by one under the heel of the German forces. Victory after victory. The German commanders even wanted to use this special army to attack England. Even Hitler, who didn't believe in mysticism, did not hinder the actions of the witch and magic divisions. By 1941, with the participation of the Japanese Empire and the fascists, the German army almost dominated Europe, except for Britain. Leading this, Hitler's sorcerer army was at its peak, nearly invincible. But this was also when the Holocaust began. German military leaders believed that German sorcerers used spiritual power from those oppressed by a group of medieval Catholic priests, or, more extremely, the Jews, to ensure that innocent Jewish people were forced to die. At this point, nothing could stop the German mystic army and the Nazi regime. On June 22nd, 1941, Hitler attacked the Soviet Union, despite both having signed a non-aggression pact. Just 6 months earlier, the Germans had surrounded Stalingrad, just 24 kilometers from Moscow. However, the harsh winter and fierce Soviet resistance slowed the Nazi army's advance. In this situation, Himmler gathered the best sorcerers from his division for Waffenheim to cast spells to melt the snow faster on the Russian fronts. The spell ceremony took place in the courtyard of Waffenheim headquarters, with all members participating. They used magic to melt the snow in Russia faster, accelerating the advance of the German army. To give the spell more power, Hitler's right-hand man Heinrich dug a grave with a sorcerer, and burned 2 corpses on a large fire. German sorcerers walked around the fire chanting spells. At the end of the ceremony, Himmler sent a telegram to General Paulus to prepare an attack plan because the icy path would soon disappear. However, the ice didn't melt when the sorcerer's spell failed. Paulus's army was overwhelmingly captured, and even the general was captured shortly after being dismissed by Hitler. From here, the greatest turning point in history opened, with the mightiest army quickly defeated. Facing the intense situation, Himmler asked the sorcerers to find ways to communicate with the Allies to negotiate peace. Knowing this plan, Hitler was furious and relieved all positions while ordering a manhunt. But he quickly escaped with his 14 most loyal sorcerers. On the 29th of May, 1945, out of the 14 loyal sorcerers, 12 deserted him. Himmler and the remaining 2 sorcerers were soon captured by the British Army the following day. In his run, Himmler instructed the 2 sorcerers, if he dies, take his body to Munich, place 4 black stakes around it so that no enemy can ever disturb him. Until the end, Himmler still had faith in the sorcerers and their powers. This somewhat shows that those who practice magic still exist somewhere on this earth. But why can they do such extraordinary things? It's their power from the beginning. Whether in the East or the West, sorcerers are people with supernatural abilities. They possess many strong skills, including mind reading, using spells, and even controlling the weather. However, these extraordinary powers are not innate, but require a long time of learning and training. Like the famous Harry Potter series, to become a sorcerer, we must learn how to use magic. In the real world, there are books containing magical knowledge, like the Lesser Key of Solomon or Abraham Lincoln's book. However, these are more symbolic and ceremonial. Let's pause here for a moment. Sorcerers are those who use special abilities, different from regular people like you and me. If learning and practice are all it takes, can we all become sorcerers? What exactly are those extraordinary abilities? The stories about sorcerers and their magic that we know are filled with mysteries and myths. Could they all just be folklore without any truth? If viewed from another perspective, these surreal things might be explainable. That is faith and religion. Almost all current religions have supreme deities with magic powers, many supernatural abilities, and it's hard to deny they might indeed exist. Moreover, the image of sorcerers has appeared throughout human development. Along with historical events and the real appearance of sorcerers, people have more belief in their powers. However, inherently, it's a belief system, a folklore tradition encompassing medicine, morality, spells, handed down through generations via legends and stories. Even if sorcerers with powerful magic like in movies might not exist, there is an equally significant special belief. That's voodoo, a religion originating from ancient Africa and considered one of the most powerful on earth. Many still mistakenly think voodoo is the dark magic of witches. But in reality, like many other religions, voodoo followers worship spirits and ancestors, believe in their existence, and seek ways to perform rituals. Although the exact origins of voodoo remain a mystery, it seems to have started somewhere in West Africa. When Africans were brought to America as slaves, they carried their culture with them. By the 18th century, when black slaves were brought to New Orleans, this became a new home for their rituals to flourish. The main features of this magic include singing during dances around the fire, sacrificing animals, and using effigies to cast spells. It's considered extremely powerful, even more so than the magic of white witches. By the 19th century, it gained prominence with the rise of the influential Queen, Mary Lovell, the very woman you and I are witnessing. Unlike the witches found in folklore, There's a lot of documentation on her life and talents. Mary was famous for having seemingly miraculous healing powers. She could easily save black patients during the yellow fever epidemic of 1853, when even skilled doctors were at a loss. It's remarkable that when healing patients who seemed at death's door, Mary used no medicines at all. She simply performed vibrant, colorful rituals. When a yellow fever patient was brought in, Mary would place them in a circle surrounded by bones of various animals, like chickens, dogs, and cats. The patient drank a mixture with broth, listening to chants from her for hours. A few days later, they were completely healed. Mary held numerous healing sessions and magic performances free of charge for many people. Her power was also evident in other areas. For example, she could speak fluently in multiple languages despite never attending school. Another tale is that Mary kept a giant snake called Zombie. The creature could understand human speech and obey her commands. Once, in front of a large crowd, Mary demonstrated the art of being in many places at once. Some claimed they saw Mary use dolls to control New Orleans' ruling class, garnishing interest and support for freeing enslaved people. The stories passed down about her remain mysterious to this day, but there's one thing everyone back then agreed on. Mary seemed to never age. By 1880, when she was nearly 80, she looked no different from a 30-year-old woman. Not a wrinkle on her face, a full figure, and a dazzlingly quick smile. But just a year later, New Orleans newspapers were abuzz with the news that Mary had passed away at home. Her funeral was grand and became one of the most talked about events of the time. Mary's life and influence were precisely what ancient texts described about sorcery. In reality, she was a representation of the beliefs and folk practices of African communities. So, how did those magical powers manifest? Was there some force that helped them achieve it? In many native regions and different civilizations, people believe that sorcery can heal with their special remedies. Similar to voodoo, there is an island in the real world known for magical healing of people. It's called Sequoia Island, located in central Visayas, Philippines. Here, tourists are attracted by special healing activities such as detoxification rituals, exorcisms, magic, or steam baths to cleanse the spirit. The locals believe that spirits are always around us, and if we invade their space, they will retaliate by causing illness and discomfort. Therefore, healing methods are also laced with mysterious and enigmatic sorcery. Using and brewing herbs into medicine is a very common practice on the island. Tourists can easily buy these remedies at roadside shops for about 100 pesos. One of the most popular products among tourists is the love potion, consisting of 20 natural ingredients, including a peculiar branch called pangamay that resembles a human hand. Most uniquely, the island hosts a ceremony called Black Saturday. Priests use a concoction made from 200 types of herbs, including a black ingredient called menasha for burning. The main aim is to dissolve curses and chase away evil spirits. It must be said that the unique healing methods along with the rituals on the island make the locals much like sorcerers. With these rare and distinct remedies, many have been cured of ailments. Could it be that they are true witches, using their powers to heal and help people? If you're skeptical about what sorcery can achieve, look at it more from a scientific perspective. In ancient Egypt, a magical act created a sensation everywhere. A magician demonstrated the act of beheading and then restoring it effortlessly for the victims. Sure, both you and I have probably seen some magic tricks. Right. When considered as an illusion, the guillotine trick isn't hard to explain. The tricky stuff, the incantations, are really just tools to distract the audience. Then voila, a successful magic performance. Thanks to advancements in science, many witch spells can be explained. It's really about psychological impact on viewers and illusionists specialize in such mesmerizing acts. Even though it's hard to affirm the existence of witches 100%, there's a day celebrated worldwide for witches. On May 1st every year, in the city of Goslar in Germany, hundreds of sorcerers from around the world gather to showcase their magic. In the Netherlands, there's a school teaching witchcraft, and graduates receive certifications. It's like a statement that, true or not, witches are part of humanity's folklore. Personally, I think the spiritual world remains a mystery that people can't fully understand. The mystery of witches isn't just about performing magical feats, but also in their profound connection to the supernatural and to mysterious realities ordinary people can't access. Their magic can bring life, heal illnesses, but can also destroy and bring deep hardship. It's this blur between good and evil, between possible and impossible, that makes witches so captivating through the centuries. Their power symbolizes things beyond human control, challenging our understanding of the world, reminding us there are still secrets in the universe. In ancient tales, witches are depicted as keepers of ancient secrets, able to control nature and heal. Their magic isn't just curses or charms, but deep understanding of universal laws that regular humans can't grasp. Their connection to invisible forces and their ability to do miraculous things has made witches symbols of the inexplicable. Witchcraft power is like magic, but it can also be simple, playful tricks appealing to human psychology.